We are going to make some apple cinnamon bread today. It is a quick bread, which means the leavener in it is going to be baking soda versus a yeast bread where the leavener would be yeast. First of all, I already have everything mise en placed and measured out to save a little time. We're going to beat together our sugar, eggs, and oil. We have 2 cups of sugar and 3 eggs. And 1 cup of vegetable oil. And if you're making this recipe at home, your eggs might not be that beautiful golden color if they came from the store. Mine are farm fresh eggs. And so the yolks are very vibrant orange. We are going to add our flour. That would be 3 cups of flour, which has already been sifted. It's back here in a bowl. And then I have my teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of cinnamon, and teaspoon of baking soda all in a separate bowl here. So we are going to be adding those to our egg mixture. Going to get extremely thick. My recipe says not to use a hand mixer to add the dry ingredients, but you can until they get a little bit mixed up. This is not all the way mixed up. There's a lot of flour mixture at the bottom, but because it could burn up my mixer because it's so thick, I'll beat up the rest by hand. So everything's mixed in so far. I'm getting ready to add the vanilla and the apples. It looks like it's too thick for a bread, quick bread, but it's not. So don't add anything to it other than what the recipe says. Okay, I'm ready to pare the last apple here. We're just gonna cut the peeling off of it, and pare means to pull the knife towards yourself, a paring knife towards yourself. And you can kind of see the knife through the skin of the apple, and that helps to just take off the skin and not the meaty part. This apple has some bruising since it's been in the fridge for a while, but that's okay. In this recipe, it won't matter. Okay, and then you're gonna cut your apple in half and then cut it in a quarter. And then from there are several ways you can chop it. This is just a basic chop recipe. So you could cut it in planks like this. And then stack some of those planks up. And then cut them in half, and then turn it and cut it in half again. Or you could, if it's easier, just to lay them all out and cut them in half, and then cut them into pieces. Remember, when you're cutting, try and use your bear claw so that you don't cut your tips of your fingernails off, your fingers off. So I could lay it down like this, cut it into planks. Those out, half again, turn it, cut it in half. And when you're done, you have little pieces. Okay, so for this recipe, I want the apples chopped a little finer and more efficient than doing each little plank at once. It's just putting them into a big pile since it's a rough chop. It doesn't matter about exact size, you just want them all kind of the same size. And so I'm just going to chop them up a little bit finer. You might see the apples are turning a little bit darker because of oxidation. They've been sitting out for a while I chopped all the other apples and did a few things, and so that's okay in this recipe. Some recipes I would put them in some water and a little orange juice, lemon juice, apple juice, something like that to keep them from oxidizing, but for this recipe it doesn't make any difference because we're baking them in bread anyway. Okay, so we're gonna add in our apples and our vanilla. So as you can see, that looks like a lot of apples in there, and I'll show it to you when I get it stirred together. And you do this by hand. If you use a mixer, it would break up the apples and it wouldn't quite taste the same. This batter is going to be very thick, more like a dough with the apples in it, and that's okay. That's what you want. It's not supposed to be the texture of, say, a banana bread. It's going to be much thicker than that, but that's okay. I'm gonna grease some loaf pans, and I actually am going to use 2 disposable ones for a couple neighbors and then one for us at home. So I've greased those. Portion the apple bread into all the pans, and then I'm just gonna put quite a bit of cinnamon and sugar on top. I like when it bakes and it makes that nice crispy crunch at the top. Put those in the oven at 325 for about, we'll check them in 45 minutes. So I'm going to use a serrated knife to just cut off a slice of this and show you what the inside looks like. It's very tender. And as you can see those apple pieces in it. I think you can see the little apple pieces in the bread. This bread is not like a banana bread. It's more dense, a little heavier, and actually has the apple pieces still intact in it. It's not like a banana bread where you taste the flavor but you don't have any texture. This one you have flavor and texture, so it's really delicious.